the slides. The slides annotations are gone, but then I can reshare, of course.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Karan, sorry.
No worries, no worries. We'll do it. We'll finish it. Diffusion, at least we'll finish. So
Okay.
here, now the diffusion, we have talked about what diffusion is. Little notes, what is given in your book is here. Why do we need it? Your cells need to take in substances like glucose and oxygen for respiration. We also need to get rid of waste products like carbon dioxide and some chemicals. Dissolved substances and gases can move into and out of your cell across the cell membrane. One of the main ways in which they move is diffusion. I think they have not divided it into simple and facilitated. So, okay, fine. Diffusion is spreading out of a particle of gas or of any substance in solution, which is actually a solute. This results in net movement or overall movement of the particles. So what happens if, like, if you spray a perfume if this is your room, you're standing here and spraying perfume, in a short while, the smell of this perfume will be spread all across the room. Even it will, I mean, if you have doors and windows open, it may also come out, and the person next room will also be able to smell what you are spraying, right? Why exactly this happened? Because the gas molecules that came out from a perfume bottle, it was spreading, dispersing in the air. Air is a medium, and in this medium, it was getting dissolved, it was getting mixed actually. And after mixing, there will be an even spread. In the beginning, the concentration of these perfume particles will be greater here, but very soon it will be evenly distributed, in air. Likewise, if let's say you have a glass of water, and you might have actually performed the experiment, you drop a drop of food dye, a potassium permanganate that's brightly colored, I mean purple in color. If you drop a food dye and you do not dissolve, you don't stir it, you just leave it as such, you'll see that, initially the food dye was concentrated here at the bottom. If it is denser, it will come and get accumulated here. But very soon, like after you leave it undisturbed for 2 hours, and then you will see that the whole solution becomes colored. Why? What happened? There was the spread, there was the diffusion of this color taking place in all the direction for even distribution, right? The diffusion results in net movement, that is overall movement of the particle. Actually, each and every particle, they have some amount of kinetic energy. Not a single particle is there which won't have a kinetic energy. Because of these kinetic energy, they're always in some random motion. Correct. Due to this movement, because they're already in motion, they keep on moving here and there, and thereby they get mixed. The movement, overall movement, we are talking about net movement or overall movement, which is from an area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration. Okay, this takes place because of the random movement of the particles. That's what I told you. Okay, because they have got kinetic energy, they randomly move, and thereby they get mixed. The motion of the particle causes them to bump into each other, and this moves them all around. Okay, the example, I'm not taking this example, that example was better. Here you see, this is blue particle concentrate. Let's say this is the perfume particles. Okay, and these red dots are the air particles. Okay, now if you sprayed here, it is concentrated initially at one region, but slowly it will start getting mixed because the particles are able to move. It's able to move in all possible direction. That's why it may bump with each other, it may bump with the other particles, and eventually they will get evenly spreading. So if you talk about the net movement, what just happened? The particle moved from region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration in order to get a state like this.
Sure.
Right? That's what we have discussed in diffusion across the membrane as well. Now the rate of diffusion. The rate of diffusion is how speed the diffusion can take place, how fast it is, how slow it is. So they say that there are three things which can affect the rate of diffusion. One is the gradient of concentration. If imagine now that there is a situation here, you have 100 of some molecule, some molecule, let's say this is 100 into this molecule, and here you have only one such molecule. The gradient is great. On the other hand, if you have another situation where you have 10 particles here, 10 into this particle and 9 into this particle, where do you have greater concentration gradient? Of course, in the first situation.
First.
Yes, the gradient is fast, therefore the rate of diffusion will also be faster. Here, the overall movement you can show as one arrow, but that won't be as fast as the first case. Okay, so you can say that if the difference between the concentration of two areas is big, diffusion will take place faster. Or in other words, you can say that greater is the gradient. Greater is the gradient. Gradient of concentration. Faster is diffusion. Okay, next. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Number of particles moving into the area of lower concentration by random movement will only be slightly more than the number of particles leaving the area. So net movement will be particle moving in minus particle moving out. Net movement actually, see any particle that move across the membrane is in both the direction. But the net movement is to be determined by how many molecules are moving in minus how many particles are moving out. So if the particles moving in is, let's say 10, and the particle moving out is 1, the net movement is 9 from outside to inside. Direction can be specified. In general, greater is the difference in concentration, faster is the rate of diffusion. The difference between two areas of concentration is called the concentration gradient. The bigger the difference, the steeper the concentration gradient, and the faster the rate of diffusion. Okay, next is temperature, second factor.
Yeah.
This is first factor. Temperature, increase in temperature, there is, okay, let it be. I'll write. Increase in temperature will increase the kinetic energy of the part. Why? Because temperature is actually the heat energy, right? Increasing temperature means increasing the thermal energy or the heat energy. That increases the kinetic energy of the particle, which increases the movement of the particle. Increased movement of particle. Thereby more collision. Increased collisions. They'll collide more. And that's why faster is diffusion. A higher rate of diffusion. They can move faster, so they can move like anywhere, isn't it? That's why you say that temperature also increases the rate of diffusion. Next is diffusion in living organisms. So dissolved substances, they move into and out of your cells by diffusion across the membrane. We have diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide taking place, at the cellular level. There's diffusion of simple sugar like glucose and gases taking place. There is nitrogenous waste like urea also getting diffused. Urea passes from liver cells into the plasma and excreted by the kidneys through diffusion. So we have the diffusion in all these cases. For example, in the lungs ka alveoli, you have more oxygen, and in the blood vessels, you have less oxygen. So what will be the movement? From a region of higher to the region of lower concentration. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So oxygen also moves by diffusion down the concentration gradient from blood cells into the cells of body where they are needed. Likewise, carbon dioxide, they're present more inside the body cells. So they'll be moving out from these cells, getting into the blood vessels, and then from blood vessels to the alveoli, from where, like when you exhale, the carbon dioxide is exchanged. Okay. That's what is mentioned here. Individual cells may be adapted to make diffusion easier and more rapid. The most common adaptation is to increase the surface area of the cell membrane. And you will find that folding up of membrane of a cell or tissue lining an organ, the area over which diffusion can easily take place. And
Sure.
it can be greatly enhanced by folding the membrane here in case of villi or microvilli of the cells. In the interstitial lining, what you see here is fold in the cell membrane, which forms microvilli and increases the surface area. And here you see, this is an intestinal cell. You see here, the membranes are folded here. Okay, this is villi. And the cells present here, they themselves have folded here. It's microvilli. Okay, so you have one folding here, you have another folding here, which can be seen. In parts, it can be seen, but this entire end is actually having this folding. So this one is villi, and this one is microvilli. Okay, so we'll stop here, and osmosis we'll discuss in the next class. I'll update you the slides. I'll also update you the timing if at all we can have extra classes. All right.
Okay.